Hi everyone, my name's Ed and this is my new YouTube channel called Runnabl. A little bit about me. So I'm 51 years old. I haven't got a massive history of running. I kind of started running in my sort of mid-40s. The reason I started running was basically I lost both my parents, unfortunately, in my early 40s, and and that hit me quite hard. Particularly my dad, who died after my mother when I was around 42, and he'd been suffering for a long time with prostate cancer, and to see him go bit by bit was pretty awful. My mum was pretty unhealthy, and not in a good way before she passed away. And my dad was kind of her carer, even though he had prostate cancer. So to see him actually look after her was incredible. But then, literally, once she died, it was almost like that was his job done, and he passed away soon after, a year after. I started heavily drinking. I really found it difficult to kind of cope with life without them, to be honest. I kind of felt like I'd lost a connection to my past. And it was a hard time for obviously me and my family and my wife in particular, I guess. We struggled, I struggled trying to connect to normal life again. Whereas my family just wanted to get on with normal life, and it is difficult for any of those people who have gone through like tragic moments like that, losing their parents, or even worse, losing their children. It's hard to get over, and it can cause a lot of disruption in families. And in my case, I started drinking a lot, heavily, to try and compensate for my sorrow. And anyone who's been through that knows that it makes things worse, to be honest. Anyway, a friend of mine who I would chat to about my issues kind of said, well, have you ever thought about doing park runs? And at the time, I'd never done long distance running. I had a past of being a sprinter when I was a kid, and I love football and rugby, but I'd never done long distance running, and it didn't really appeal, to be honest. And he said, well, just try it. It's a kind of a community thing. So I guess in sort of 2000, I struggle to remember the exact date, but when I started doing them regularly, it was now 2019. The year, I guess, 2018-19, years leading up to COVID. And I started initially doing the odd park run, running as hard as I could, and then by the end I'd almost be throwing up. My legs would seize up, and I wouldn't be able to do anything until the next park run. And then it was that kind of cycle where I'd gradually get quicker and quicker, but it was marginal gains. I got up to around about 20 minutes. Kept myself fit, so I was a decent runner, but I didn't do the proper training. I remember coming second in one of the park runs. I think that's actually when I broke 20 minutes. It was like 1950 something, and I was delighted, but I'd actually injured myself doing it, so I had to have some time off. And I kind of felt like, well, where am I going with this? I've started getting into it. I've stopped drinking because here you go. I mean, drinking and running quickly doesn't really mix, so I had to choose one or the other. So running helped me give up the alcohol, which was great, but I wasn't training properly. So I kind of thought, well, what do I need to do here? So I started to try and do a little bit of running during the week. It was not easy because my legs would be kind of still sore from the park run. But I did enough to consider doing a 10K. So I did the Q10K. I think that was kind of early, might have been late 2018, early 2019. And that went okay. I did it in 43 minutes, but my legs were just absolutely wrecked by the end of it. And I just remember thinking, you know, being so proud of myself for doing it at a decent time for my first ever 10K, the Kew Gardens one. If you haven't done Kew Gardens 10K, actually, that's a really good one to do. It's expensive, but you get entry to the parks. It kind of compensates. And those who've not been to Kew Gardens before, it's an amazing place. So anyway, I digress. I did the 10K. And, you know, I was thinking then, right, I'm going to get really into running. And then COVID hit, of course. And that, ironically for me, is when I could then start doing the training properly, because I wasn't doing the park runs. And for anyone who's, you know, been in a similar cycle, you need to stop the racing and get yourself fit and then do the racing, right? You have to build a base. And that's what I didn't know, and lots of people don't know that you know, you have a period where you build a base and then you do like racing and stuff like that and see how you improve, and then you build a base again, and each time your base gets higher and higher. But you know, it took me a while to figure that out, and COVID actually helped. So during COVID I got quite fit, got training, and then there was a period, I don't know if you remember, when Boris let us go out on holiday for 2 weeks, but only in the UK. So me and my family, we went off to well, we went to St Ives first of all for a week with friends and family, and then we went, on the way back, we stopped at a place called Lyme Regis. Lyme Regis will forever stick in my mind. On the last day of the holiday, I was out in my morning run. I was thinking about work, and you know, I wasn't in the best of moods, I guess, and I stepped out in front of in between two cars, the kind of thing as a kid you're taught never to do. The Green Cross roadman would have been furious with me, right, literally. And I got hit, bang, in my leg by a car. It was a red car, small car, but it hit me so hard that it instantly threw me in the air, and then my back, poof, against the windscreen. Windscreen shattered. I can remember feeling the pain of glass going into my back, and then I rolled over the side of the car and hit my head, bang, just about an inch from the curb. And you know, since speaking to the ambulance people, they told me if I'd have been those 2 inches closer to the curb, I would have hit my neck and probably died. So in some ways, I was lucky, but you know, the sensation of getting hit like that is like being hit like a rag doll. But, you know, you're a rag doll in the air and you're flying all over the place. And those multiple hits caused me a lot of damage. I was lying there on the floor, you know, I probably passed out for a minute or so, and then I thought, right, yeah, what the hell's just happened? So I tried to get up, and obviously that didn't go well, as you can imagine, and collapsed back down. And then a kind lady from the local neighbourhood, she came running over. She had a white dressing gown that she put underneath my head and got me in the recovery position. There was blood everywhere, so this dressing gown soon turned, you know, a nasty shade of pink. And then I had to wait for my wife to arrive. She called on my phone, this lady, and the driver, by the way, he was a young guy. It wasn't his fault, and he was in absolute bits. He couldn't really do a lot. He was so upset, and you can imagine from his point of view, he's thinking, well, what will this mean for me? Is this guy going to be okay? Is this guy going to die? Am I going to go to prison? You know, all these things. So, you know, you have to think of the other person as well when tragic things happen like that. We're all victims in this kind of thing, right? In this kind of situation. Anyway, the ambulance came. The nearest kind of decent fracture clinic was Southampton. It was quite a drive, and a couple of hours. They took me there, and it was during lockdown, so I was in there for 4 weeks. By the third week, they actually operated on my leg. But before that, you know, I'd seen doctors, and I would ask them now and again, you know, how's it going? You know, how's it looking? My leg was all pinned. I'll put in in this video, I'll put in some images of the x-rays of my leg, and also show you some pictures of me in hospital and what have you. But so the doctor, one doctor in particular I remember, let's call him Bad Doctor, although he ends up being a good guy in some respects. But Bad Doctor was a kind of smarmy guy. He reminded me of Roger Black, actually. If you know athletics and 400 metres, nothing against you, Roger Black, by the way, but he looked like you. And he said to me, I said to him, you know, with what's happened, will I be able to run again? Because as you know, I was just getting into running, and he said no. You know, you'll be lucky to walk properly again. You'll be walking with a limp for the rest of your life. And I was like, oh my God, you know, for that evening, and you know, for a few hours, I was like, what have I done? I've destroyed my life. I mean, I was such an active guy. And I was thinking, well, what do I do? What do I do? How can I live with this? And then overnight, something must have happened, because I woke up the morning kind of indignant and saying, no, actually, no. I know my body, and he's wrong. And I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to prove anyone wrong who thinks I can't get back from this. So there and then I planned my first marathon. So I picked the Milton Keynes Marathon just because I was supposed to be flat. I'd done a bit of research near me. I'm in North London, low key. I get in okay. And I was thinking, right, I'm going to do that in 2022. Bear in mind, this was August 2020. So the odd person I told about this thought I was absolutely mental. Just thinking, no way. But anyway, I there and then planned this marathon and all the stages. So the first stage was when I got out of hospital to start rehab. Obviously, I was trying to stretch my leg, get it straight again, trying to build up the muscles. What I haven't told you is that accident broke my leg in 3 places. My back, T4 and T11 sections of my spine got broken, and both shoulder scapulars got fractured, and my head got broken. So it was the doctor, in many respects, you know, was right to say what he did, and I don't blame him to this day. I used him as motivation. But anyway, long story short, I had set those goals, and one target was to walk by Christmas, so I could do the Christmas walk. So that was 4 months on. I managed it, got myself totally off crutches, started doing proper physio, started doing Pilates. That was hard because I was the only guy doing it, and you know, I got picked on and I couldn't do it very well. But I kept persevering, you know, and that's a big word for me, persevering. You've got to keep going in life. If people say you can't do something that you really want to do, persevere, keep going. And so in my mind, I had the words of that doctor, you know, and you know, the operation itself had gone all right, but I still had these doubts because of this guy. But I was like saying, no, keep going in, don't doubt yourself. Anyway, let's roll on a few months. Let's say like 12 months to be about right. I was in a lot better shape. I'd started to jog even. And I thought, well, what else do I need? So I thought, right, let's get some expertise from people. So I joined a running club called Trent Park Running Club. It's near, if anyone knows Trent Park, it's in Cockfosters in North London. It's an absolutely beautiful park. You should visit if you haven't been before. It's got such massive grounds. It feels like you're in the countryside, basically. Beautiful place. I joined a running club that's based there, and then bit by bit started running with these guys and girls and getting experience from them, picking their brains about marathons. And then, so that was probably 2021 at this point, December. And then, you know, roll on a few months later, May 2022, and I was doing the marathon, right? And this is a massive thing for me. Unfortunately, just before that marathon, I was given, the doctors had been monitoring me just to make sure that I was recovering from the accident. And they were testing me for various things. And I got a call saying, you need to come in. So I assumed it was to do with my injury. And And when I got there, I was rushed in to see the doctor, and she sat me down and said, we've got some bad news. And I was like, okay. I was thinking, is there a problem with the leg? What is it? And then they told me, unfortunately, that I had blood cancer. And then obviously all the thoughts of my dad came back to me, and I was it really shook me to the bones, actually. It's a type of blood cancer referred to as ET, but thrombocythemia is, I think, the way you pronounce it. There's no cure, but I can live a long life provided I live healthily and stress-free and look after myself. And she told me all of these things, and it wasn't really registering. And I had this, literally a matter of weeks, I had this marathon. And I thought, how many more blows do they want to give me? And I thought, right. And again, it took a few hours, and then I thought, no, I'm doing the marathon, and F off cancer. You're not going to stop me. And to this day, I give the proverbial finger to cancer, because it does not define me and will never will. And anyway, I did the marathon. I did it with my wife, actually. She decided to do it as well. I didn't know what I was doing. I ran as hard as I could, and obviously by the end I was in a bit of a mess, but managed to do it in 3 hours 12, which for my age at the time, 49, meant I qualified for Boston. It was a Boston qualifying time, and I thought, wow, I could not believe it. It was just incredulous that, to me, that I could have ran that quickly. So I thought, well, might never get this chance again. So a year later, I did the Boston Marathon. I did that in 3 hours and, 4 minutes? 3 hours, 4 minutes. That qualified me for London, which I did the year after. In between that, I did Loch Ness, which, by the way, is a beautiful marathon. If you ever get a chance to go up there to Inverness, it's fantastic. I did the London Marathon, which was this year. The London Marathon was probably the most amazing experience of my life. The atmosphere was incredible. It's like Boston times 10. Boston was incredible because of the standard of competitor of runner there, like gazelles. It was quite intimidating, actually. London at a different scale in terms of size and just the amount of people that come out to look at you and to shout your name, and Tower Bridge was just incredible. Cutty Sark was incredible. Just the whole occasion. I managed to, despite being injured in that training block, I managed to do that in 3 hours too, which got me qualified for Chicago, which I'm literally doing in a month's time. But I've just got a late entry to Berlin Marathon, so that's literally in 3 weeks' time. So my story goes on, and you can see what I'm planning now. I'm trying to do the big 6. I don't know whether that will be enough for me, and then I've done my marathons, because of all the running races I do, they're probably the one that I'm least good at. Exponentially I get slower as I go further, probably because of my injury, but 5K is definitely my best, followed by 10K, pretty close. Half marathon's okay. Marathon I struggle a bit. I'll be 51 years old when I do Berlin and Chicago, with the final 2 marathons, New York hopefully next year when I'll be 52, and Tokyo the following year when I'm 53. And if I can do that, my story will be complete. I'll feel like I've achieved everything that I want to achieve, and then I can just enjoy myself and stick to my park runs and 5Ks and just enjoy myself. So sorry I've rambled a bit, but that's who I am. That's my running story. It's a short period of time. It's packed with lots of incident challenges, but if you take anything from this, I want you to know that anything obstacle that people or health or whatever puts in front of you, you can get through. If you want to use me as inspiration, that's great. If you look at me and think he's crazy, that's great. But my point is, you know, if you're faced with these, you know, obstacles, these things that crush you down, the worst you can do, things you can do is put your head in your hands and give up. You need to fight. And I want us to all fight. And if you watch this channel, there'll be moments, I'm sure, when I'm training that I'm having to fight. You know, I've woke up my legs in bits. The other part of this channel is running shoes. I've got a little minor addiction to them. I'm gonna, with my condition as well, I pick certain types of shoes that are helpful for if you've got injuries and what have you. So if you fall into that camp, you could get a lot out of this channel. But I just do generally love running shoes, and I love the technology. Not a massive stats fan, but I prefer the feel. You know, how they run rather than, you know, weight. So you see a lot of reviews that instantly criticize a shoe and say shoe's no good because it's heavy. I'll never do that. It's all about the run for me. So if you like running shoes, if you want to hear a bit more about my story, if you want to see me run, if you want to ask me questions about rehab or anything like that, please do. This is the channel for you. I'd love you to subscribe. I'd love you to, you know, thumbs up my videos. I'd love you to comment. I know I can't demand that of any of you, but it would be great. And if we can build a bit of a community here, that would be a huge thing for me. You know, my ambition, I think, is not to make loads of money. Is to build a community of runners that have been through issues, and we can all kind of, you know, put fingers up, if you like, to those issues, those barriers, and break them down. That's all I wanted to say to you. Hope that's been informative. I've now got a barbecue to prepare for. It's a nice big bit of lamb, which I'm not going to eat, by the way, because I've got a 20-mile race tomorrow, and I'm strictly no red meat before that race. That's just something I kind of do these days. But the guests will like it. Anyway, it's been great talking to you. Hope you found that informative, and I'll see you soon. Keep watching the channel, and please subscribe if you like the content you're hearing. Bye bye.